Hey fellow gliders, this is Robert Petito, and this is the first video in a series of videos related to creating a subscription model for your Glide app. Now Glide will be the first one to come out and tell you that their priority is creating apps for work, meaning an app that you're going to use for yourself, for your business, as an internal tool to increase efficiency or some sort of task within your organization. However, many of us are creating Glide apps because it is our business. We're trying to create a B2C software as a service app that will generate income. Unfortunately, Glide does not have any tools that come right out of the box to help us create a membership or subscription app. We have to craft it ourselves. So in this video series, I'm going to show you exactly what to do from start to finish as to how to set up your Glide app, set up your database, integrate it, and automate it in order to generate income with your Glide app. In this introductory video, we're going to help you determine what it is you're selling and then how to best set up your Glide app as well as the database that feeds that Glide app in order to make the subscription model most efficient. Now, I can't cover all of the different subscription models that exist out there, so for this video series, I'm going to pick the most generally applicable method, and that's creating a singular subscription to your app that will eventually unlock premium content that you're hiding behind that paywall. So here we have my Glide app. I'm using Glide Pages to create this, and this is an LMS, learning management system, where I am selling video courses to my end users. The end product is going to be this Glide page, which will have some free content and some premium content, and users will have to subscribe to my app in order to gain access to that premium content. In order to build out the subscription model within this Glide page, I need 4 key tables. I'm going to go to the data editor and describe those to you. The first one here is our users table. This is the one that's going to house all of our user data and will populate a list of users that are signed into the app. The second table is the list of content that you are putting behind your paywall. In this case, it's going to be lessons. Now, for my LMS, I have courses, and courses have lessons. I'm not paywalling the courses because I actually want them to dive into the course and see the description of the course. But when they try to access any of the videos of that course, that's when they'll get the notification that they need to pay in order to access that content. Our third table is our subscriptions table. In this table, we're going to have eventually 1 row per user, and it's going to determine whether or not the users have subscribed. So when users go through the subscription process, a new row will be added to this table and will verify whether or not the user has an active subscription, a lapsed subscription, or no subscription whatsoever. And our fourth table is just going to be a generic table that's going to serve as the source for our promotion or our marketing or our subscription screen. Have some text and images in there, and that's really it. Now let's make sure all of your sheets are set up correctly. In the user sheet, you should have name, email, and photo. Those are the 3 main columns that you need in order to set up your user profile sheet. So once you have a users table and have those 3 columns, you can verify that your user profile screen is set up correctly by going to the layout view, visiting the user profile tab, making sure your users sheet is set up as the source sheet for your user profiles, and then you can see that your name, email, and image fields, you're able to select those via a dropdown. Our second table, which was the content that we're putting behind our paywall, we don't really have to do anything special with this because we're actually going to set up all of the logic on the front end, not the back end of this table. Okay, our third table, our subscriptions table. I'm specifically going to be using a service called Pay Here in order to generate that subscription link. We're going to cover that in a later video. But we need to make sure that our sheet is going to house the columns necessary that's going to come from Pay Here in order to generate whether or not we have an active subscription. So these columns that I'm showing you are ones that we can pull in from a subscription when someone makes a payment. Those columns are our name column, which will be the name of the person subscribing, their email, which is an email column here, the customer ID, which is the unique ID that Pay Here assigns for that user. The subscriber ID is a unique identifier for that customer, which specifies the subscription that they've signed up to. It is possible that if they cancel a subscription and then rejoin, it's going to generate a new subscriber ID. And we need that subscriber ID available here in the sheet in case we want to allow our users to cancel their subscription from the app. Okay, subscribed on is just date time column to let us know when they subscribed. Last payment, same thing. This is going to help us to determine whether or not they have an active subscription, that they're caught up with their payments. Next payment, this needs to be a date time column as well. This is going to let us know when they are going to pay next, so we can determine whether or not they are within a current pay period. The plan column will serve as a way to recognize what plan they've subscribed to. Now for this video series, we're only going to allow for one type of plan, but if you watch towards the end of my video series, I'll have a couple bonus videos on there as to how to create a tiered model of subscriptions in case you want to offer different levels of subscription in your app. The amount is just nice to know in case you want to see what they paid. Next is their payment status. This will help us to know whether or not their payment actually went through successfully. And finally, their subscription status. This will help us to know what their status is of the subscription, whether they are trialing, they have an active, or they have a canceled subscription. Now, all of the columns in this subscription sheet currently are basic column types: text, numbers, and dates. But we do need to have a couple of computed columns in this table to help us determine whether or not the users have an active subscription. Ultimately, what we want is to take a look at this next payment column, figure out if it's in the future or if it's in the past. And if it's in the past, that must mean that they have an old subscription. If it's in the future, that means that they are current in their payments and have an active subscription. If they have an active subscription, we need a way to link the currently signed in user to their active subscription. And so we're going to create an if then else column in this table to help us do that. So we're going to create one more column here. It's going to be an if then else column. And we're going to say if active, then user. So we're going to say if the next payment column, if it's before today, meaning it's in the past, it's yesterday or before, right? That must mean that they have an inactive subscription. So in that case, we're going to result in nothing. However, if they have an active subscription, then we're going to result in the user's email. Just so you see how this works, I'm going to go ahead and put in my email here. And then in the next payment column, I'm going to go ahead and put in yesterday's date. And we see that this column is blank. However, if I put in today's date or tomorrow's date or any date in the future, this column will contain the user's email. So now we have a conditionality here that we can check against whether or not they have an active subscription. For us to determine if the user has an active subscription, all we have to do is link the users table to the subscriptions table via this column through a relation. So in our users table, we're going to go ahead and create a new relation. So next to email here, I'm just going to add a column to the right, and I'm going to say relation to active subscription. The type is going to be a relation column. And we're going to relate the user's email to the subscriptions if active user column. Okay. We see that this column is no longer empty, which means it found an active subscription, whereas these two users do not have an active subscription because their email addresses don't exist in that table. This column will ultimately be the column that serves as the conditionality to whether or not we show them the content or we direct them to the promo screen. The last table we have to create here is that source table for our subscription screen. Let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new table. And this is going to be a working table. So we only need one row in this table, and it doesn't need to live in a Google Sheet if that's the source that you've chosen. So it can be a glide table just fine. Let's go ahead and call this promo screen. And the only information that we really need in here is any sort of text or images that you want to display as part of your promoting the subscriptions, right? So maybe you have a title in here that's going to be like, hey, subscribe now. We can add a description, text column. That's going to serve as just a way for you to describe the plan. So this is your plan description here. Right, if you want to have an image, you can throw an image column in there too. Now, the only fancy thing we have to do with this screen is provide a link between this screen and the current user. The reason being is because we might want to access this information and access this screen from a variety of places in our app. Maybe you want to send them to the sign up now or register now or subscribe now page from a variety of places in your app in order to generate more sales. So the best way to do that is to link your user profile to this tab. And that way you can access it from a variety of places. So the way we can link our user profile row to this table is by bringing in the current user's information. In this case, we can bring in the current user's row ID. I'm going to create a new column here. We're going to call it current user. And the type is going to be a template column. The template column allows us to bring in user profile information. So for this template, where it's going to have us enter this template text, we're going to hit the triple dots over here, select our user profile, and grab the row ID. So now we have our currently signed in user's row ID in this table. And now we can make a relation from our users table to this promo screen through that ID. So back in our users table, we're going to create a new column, and we're going to call this relation to promo table. The type is going to be a relation, and we're going to relate the user's row ID to the promo screen current user. We're not going to match multiple. Hit done. And now we see that for the signed in user, we have an active relation. Right? So if I switch my user, we'll see that that relation is always going to be related to the person who's signed in. Now we'll do more with this later in our video series when we actually go out and build our subscription screens. All right, our app is now in a pretty good spot to start receiving information from those subscriptions moving forward. In the next couple of videos, we're going to create those payment links and create those automations in order to provide a nice user experience for our users. If you have any questions or comments about the content of this video, feel free to leave me a comment below. You can also reach out to me at Twitter @rpetito. And as always, thanks for watching.